So if you've been stretching regularly, doing your turnout exercises and attending your dance classes frequently, but your turnout still isn't improving, there could be a few different reasons for this. So the first reason is that it could be your anatomy, your skeleton, that's limiting you. Not every dancer has the same potential turnout, and that's because your turnout is determined by the structure of your hips. So you can improve your strength and control and mobility, but you can't completely change the shape of your bones. So this could be down to your hip socket shape, it could be the femoral neck angle, or it could even just be your pelvic structure. Each dancer will have a different skeleton, and so their potential range will be different to the person next to them. So this is something very important that you need to keep in mind, because it's not always just a case of I just need to keep stretching, I just need to keep strengthening and forcing my hips, because if your skeleton doesn't allow for the range that you're expecting of your hips, this could result in other parts of your body compensating. So you might roll from in your arches, you might twist your ankles, twist your knees, and this could result in injury. So instead you need to be asking yourself, how can I maximize and control the natural range of movement that my body allows? Also keep in mind, in ballet, we expect the hips to do quite extreme things. Rotating the legs into a flat first position or flat fifth position is unnatural. It's not what the body naturally does. So we are asking a lot of our body anyway when we're dancers. I mentioned briefly that when we're forcing our turnout, this might result in dropping the arches, rolling from the ankles, twisting the knees. And I wanted to talk a bit more about this because this isn't necessarily the result of reaching your maximum turnout. Sometimes dancers will have more potential range in their hip sockets. They're just putting their focus in the wrong place and they're approaching the movement incorrectly. So let's do a little exercise at the bar just to check that you are approaching your turnout in the right way. So we're going to begin with the legs parallel and we're going to do a quick alignment check. So lengthening the tailbone down, engaging the deep core muscles, hips are lifted. From here we're going to lift up the toes, and then from the hip socket we're going to rotate the legs to first position, making sure you're not pushing back in the hips as you do this. So once more, legs are in parallel, lift up the toes, rotate from the hip socket without any twisting or rolling in the ankles. Keep your arches lifted, your hips up and your tailbone down. Tummy button pressing to the back of your spine. So let's try that once more, feet in parallel. We do our posture check, we lift up the toes, rotate the legs from the hip socket, and this is the range of turnout we want to work with. We don't want to be forcing it further than this. Let's try a demi-plie, making sure your knees go over the toes, they're not rolling inwards, and we're not pushing our heels forwards either. Heels stay down, knees go over toes. So lengthening through the spine, demi-plie, and stretch, engaging the backs of the legs as you stretch, hips lift. Again, demi-plie, and drop down at the back, lift at the front as you stretch. Now lowering into our grand plie, make sure that the heels stay where they are, they're not pushing forwards. Same again in second position, knees going out to the side, no rolling the knees forwards or letting the heels slip. Second demi-plie, down at the back, up at the front. Now going into our grand plie, if you notice that you start pitching forwards in your grand plie, then stop where you are and reduce the depth of the grand plie. So we always want to keep our alignment. Tendu and rond de jambe to fourth. Now in fourth position, a lot of people let their hips come forwards, especially if you naturally have an anterior tilt. So we're going to lift the hips up, drop the tailbone at the back. 2 demi-plies where we keep our knees going over our toes and baby toes pressing down into the floor. Now for our grand plie, make sure that your back knee isn't turning inwards and that both heels are coming off the floor equally, so our weight is evenly distributed between both feet. Now closing into fifth position, and we're going to do the same again. 2 demi-plies and a grand plie, checking our alignment. Knees pressing out, dropping the tailbone down,
lifting the hips and engaging the deep core. Tendu to switch the feet, 2 demi-pliés and a grand plié. And every time you stretch the knees, try to engage the backs of the legs and find length going through the spine. And finally, tendu the back leg, and we're going for our last 4th position. Making sure the front leg isn't turning inwards, we're keeping that natural turnout we found previously. 2 demi-pliés with the knees going over the toes. Check that the arches are lifted, your baby toes are pressing down into the floor, and the tailbone is down but not tucked. And then for our grand plié, again, no twisting or hitching of the hips, knees going straight out to the side, and then engaging the backs of the legs as you stretch. Now moving on to a slow back more. Lead with your heel. Try and get your inside ankle bone to look up to the ceiling. And then as you draw the toes back in, keep your turnout, engage the backs of the legs. Same to the side. We're trying to rotate the leg and lift from underneath. And to the back. You want to lead with the toes. Keep your inside ankle bone looking down to the ground. And now swapping over to the other side, you might want to put your hand on your hip to check that your hips are level and they're not hitching or twisting as you lift the leg. And last one, to the back, leading with the toes, keeping your turnout as you lift, keeping your hips well aligned, and lead with the heel to close. So those are a few exercises to check you're engaging your turnout in the right way.
Which leads me on to my next point, which is mindfulness during your everyday classes. A lot of students I teach, even though they're really passionate about ballet and they're really set on achieving goals, often during their ballet classes they forget that even during simple movements like a plie or a tendu, we are still actively focusing on our turnout, rotating the leg from the hip socket, checking in with our alignments. There's quite literally no movement in ballet that should be easy. Even standing still with all the correct alignment and the right muscles engaged should be a workout in itself. So a nice test you can give yourself is to follow a very, very simple bar. You could follow an online class, or you could even set yourself something incredibly simple. I mean, a battement tendu exercise, 4 to the front, 4 to the side, 4 to the back, 4 to the side, super, super simple. But put all of your focus on the quality of your movement and your alignment. Every single tendu, are you rotating from the hip socket? Are you trying to keep your turnout as you draw your foot back in, leading with the toes, pushing the heel forwards? Every single releve, are you pressing your heels forwards as you lower down, but keeping your hips lifted, keeping your spine nice and long? Even your pliés, checking your knees are always over your toes, there's no rolling in the ankles, your pelvis is well placed, and you're rotating from the hips as you stretch the knees. Working in a turned out position is not natural, and so your body will naturally want to take you to a turned in or parallel position when it feels unstable, because as humans we are most stable parallel. But as ballet dancers we need to feel secure in a turned out position. So mindfulness of your turnout and practice in your regular classes will really help with your nervous system and your muscle memory. Many dancers don't actually have a turnout problem, they have a turnout maintenance problem. And by that I mean they might have great passive turnouts, but as soon as they start dancing and movement is added, we lose that turnout. A really good example is the difference in your turnout at the bar compared to in the center. When we're at the bar, we can hold on to something, we have something to support and stabilize us, and so it's much easier to force your turnout when you've got something to hold on to. Whereas in the center, we don't have the bar anymore, we're completely by ourselves, and so we're relying on our strength and control to maintain our turnouts during movement. And most dancers will notice that their turnout decreases quite considerably as soon as they come away from the bar, which suggests that they have more work to do on their active turnout rather than just passive turnout. So a lot of dancers, when they find themselves with a spare 15-20 minutes and they want to focus on their turnout, quite often they will just do stretches, and they will choose passive stretches. By that I mean they will just sit in box splits. And don't get me wrong, I was guilty of that too at school. I was known for just sitting in box splits, chatting or texting, or even, butterfly stretch, or placing one leg on top of the other. Lots of names for this one, maybe sandwich stretch, but just sort of chilling and hanging out in these stretches will only ever give you a kind of passive stretch. But like I said before, stretching is only half the battle. To be able to control your turnout in the center, or even particularly on point, you'll need a lot of strength. So I'm not saying you shouldn't stretch. By all means, keep up your stretches. I'm just encouraging you to put your focus on passive stretching as well as active stretching. Active stretching will feel like you're doing more exercises, it will feel like more of a workout, but that's because not only are you increasing your range of movement, but you're also building strength. And this is what will help you to hold and control your turnout whilst dancing. And if you feel like this is an area that you need to focus on more, I would encourage you to check out part 1 of this Turnout series, where we look at 15 different exercises that target your active turnout. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and check out my Ballet Coach's YouTube membership. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.